All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here, so everybody's attention. All right, again, thank you everybody for coming to our ad hoc group on the comprehensive needs assessment. I found this to be very valuable, all the information that we're getting and the input that we're able to provide. But I know it takes a lot of people's time, and it's hard to get a lot of busy people who are at this table together. But thank everyone for coming. I've gone through some of the IRB's report here, and I think there's a lot of good things to discuss, today on the agenda. And with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Nielsen.
Well, I want to thank you all, too, for the regular attendance and participation. On many fronts, we're working together for the long-range goals of keeping everything on board here, keeping the community informed and involved, and ensuring that we do not have difficulties. We were just up there at the boat ramp kicking off, and things look pretty good. So we're off to a good start, and we appreciate everybody being attentive and coming to these meetings. This is where we have our opportunity to input and to hear what's going on. Ted Craddock, DWR.
Hey, thank you, Senator, Assemblyman. So I also want to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Ad Hoc Group. We have a good agenda for today and are looking forward to the discussions this morning. I think we thought it'd probably be helpful before we jump into the agenda just to do a round of introductions and then we'll get started. So Ted Craddock with Department of Water Resources. We've had a couple of changes in our organization. Our Deputy Director, Joel Ledesma, moved on to another opportunity, and so I am now filling in his role. And then I'm also here today on behalf of John Yarbrough, who is typically DWR's representative. He's on a well-deserved vacation with his family. He has some small kids, so it's good to get some time in before the start of the school year. So,
Thank you, Ted. And then go ahead.
Okay, Laura Page, the Office of Congresswoman Alpha.
Matt Mintick, retired Wood City resident.
Ron Stark at Friends of the River.
Bill Conley, Butte County Supervisor.
Corey Honey, Butte County Sheriff, and I have to begin by saying that things have conspired against me today to cause me some scheduling problems, and I'm going to have to leave shortly, unfortunately, but I have brought with me Lieutenant Steve Collins, who has been transitioning in to take over for formerly Lieutenant Bell, who I recently promoted to captain. So I will leave Steve here when I leave, and he'll keep track of what's going on from our standpoint. But I do appreciate everything that you guys are doing with regard to that, and sorry that I can't stay for the entire meeting.
My name is Rune Sorsen. I'm with UC Berkeley's Center for Catastrophic Risk Management. And I just want to take a quick second and introduce, I have a visiting student from Norway with me here, Alexander, and we're working on a initiative looking at dam safety kind of across the world. So we're looking at Norway, the EU, the USA, and Brazil, with kind of this focus of being on lookout for things that could go wrong tomorrow as opposed to reacting to things that happened yesterday.
Curtis Grimo with the Office of Assemblyman James Gallagher.
Rob Olmsted, my deputy staff, will be here shortly, but there was an accident that held him up. He got backed up behind an accident, so he's not in it, but he'll be here shortly.
Pretty good.
Bruce Muller, Independent Review Board.
Paul Schweikert, Independent Review Board. Daniel McKeon, Independent Review Board.
Betty Andrews, Independent Review Board.
I'm Les Harder with HDR, working with DWR.
Lizzie Williamson, Natural Resources Agency.
John Lehi with the Department of Water Resources, State Water Project Operations.
Steve Berrigan, consultant to DWR and a member of the CNA team.
Sergio Escobar, DWR.
Rhonda Robbins with HDR, part of the integration team.
Eric C. with DWR here in Oroville.
Dave Sarkisian with DWR, Chief of our Dam Safety Services.
Nick Verbecker, consultant for DWR.
Alexander Tsismets is visiting student from CCRM.
Steve Collins, Butte County Sheriff's Office.
Derek Bell, Butte County Sheriff's Office.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And And if it makes sense, we'll go ahead and get into the agenda. Maybe we'll do just a brief review of the agenda before we get started. So I believe everyone has a package in front of them with the agenda. Maybe a reminder that really the purpose of this meeting is it's an opportunity for DWR to share our progress and an update on the comprehensive needs assessment for the Oroville complex, and opportunity for the ad hoc group to review and provide input to DWR through this process. For today, we had a few objectives for this meeting. One was to share our condition assessment for the facilities that we've been conducting, and provide an opportunity to talk about that a little bit. Also, update on the status of our development of the criteria for the comprehensive needs assessment. We also have an early implementation item related to installing instrumentation that we wanted to share with the group today as well. And also an update on our forecast-informed reservoir operation work. And then, of course, one of the goals is to also, have an opportunity for the ad hoc group to provide us comments and feedback as we move through this process. So any questions on the agenda? We will have a time for a short break in a little bit as well.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything, so maybe we'll start with the IRB, and if you guys can give us an overview of your report. I know one of the big things I'm taking away is there's a lot of probable failure mode assessment, screening going on. I think that's very important to all of us, and kind of wanting to get more detail and background on, okay, what are we looking at, and how are we screening things out. I think that's something that you guys highlighted, but go ahead and proceed. And
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. Fifth time that we've gotten together with DWR. This was about a month ago. They gave us a number of presentations on where they're at, on their activities related to the comprehensive needs assessment. Just as a quick reminder, the members of the review board, we all introduced ourselves. Dan Wade is not here today. He too is off on a vacation with his family, so he wasn't able to join us today. Let's take before we dive into the fifth meeting, let's look at where we're at on the recommendations from the past meetings real quick. Just as a reminder of the statuses that we use, we have recommendations that we assign a category of either under consideration, planned, in progress, closed, not adopted, or superseded. And so this is a little summary table of where things are at. I think one good thing to note is that at this point there are no recommendations in the not adopted category. And I think what you'll see is the vast majority of recommendations are either in progress or we consider them to be closed because we've seen enough evidence that we're satisfied that those recommendations have been addressed in the process. So let's get into report number 5. There were a number of questions that were asked of the IRB. The first one actually is probably the longest question. It's the biggest in scope. Does the IRB have any recommendations or comments on the task team's existing conditions assessment presentations? First of all, I think it is the overall consensus of the IRB that there has been extraordinary progress since the last meeting of the IRB back this spring. There's a tremendous amount of work that has gone through assessing all of the different potential failure modes. And I think we've seen that with the progress that's occurred over the last several months, we have no concerns for DWR's ability to complete the study by next May, June timeframe. I don't know the exact date when they plan to have it completed, but it's well within reach of being able to finish this up and have something that they can put out. So these are the general comments that we had that kind of apply across the board to this question. Remember, there's 6 tasks. I believe we saw presentations on 4 out of the 6 tasks. And so what we came away with is we concur with the application of the asset management risk matrix. But keep in mind that for the CNA study, they have extended what is commonly used for the risk matrix. Because in asset management, it really doesn't quite go to the extent that you need to go to for dam safety purposes in terms of what the magnitude of the consequences are and what the low probabilities are that you have to deal with. So asset management, I would say, is more to deal with the decisions about how to maintain and investments you may want to make in the nearer term. Dam safety is about what do you need to do for the long term to adequately manage the risk to the public. They've been through and they've analyzed 372 potential failure modes. We did not go through every single failure mode as an IRB, but what we did do is we had presentations about which failure modes did they think were most important, and of those, they came up with 127 of those that they considered to be unique and credible to the point of deserving attention, to where they would actually go through and estimate various levels of scenarios associated with those failure modes, and then 5 different categories of consequences. So you end up with 407 scenarios, 235 consequence estimates that they've put together, summarized. And I think it's still a work in progress. There were still a couple of areas where they needed to do a little bit more work to wrap all of that up. But nonetheless, it gives you some sense of the scope of what they're having to accomplish in order to really comprehensively go through and consider every possible or every conceivable failure mode that may be out there and assign it a probability and a consequence. We agree with the screening approach. As I said, we didn't review every failure mode. We recommended that they keep a record of every one of these failure modes and the reasons for not taking a failure mode further into the analysis. We also recommended developing a process to incorporate consideration of uncertainty. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the embankment. And we agreed with the use of incremental consequences, but we also suggested presenting and discussing total consequences. Where this comes into play is primarily on flood-related failure modes. There is a certain amount of damage that would happen if you had never had the dam, there's a certain amount of damage that is simply kind of the base case. Incremental consequences are what are the consequences that are over and above that by virtue of having the dam in place. And so that we believe is the right perspective for being able to do the analysis. So if we get more specific, task 1, the emergency spillway. So the first thing that we noted was that they, at least at the current stage of analysis, they've relied on the operation of the flood control outlet works or outlet as planned. So that's assuming everything goes well with the FCO. But there's several potential or FCO potential failure modes that could actually raise the likelihood of the emergency spillway having to operate. And so we've asked them to be sure that they're making that connection. They have a process for doing that. They have a team that's looking at how these are interrelated between the different tasks. And so I think we'll see that coming in the next round for IRB number 6. the primary residual risk, because they've done a lot of work on the emergency spillway, what we see as the remaining primary residual risk is that of having a discharge over the emergency spillway that's going to erode material and deposit that into the forebay downstream, so that would actually hinder the ability to operate the Hyatt power plant. And the Hyatt power plant is their sole or their primary means of being able to evacuate the reservoir. So that really becomes a primary risk. And so that's something that they're looking at, but it was just a note of where's the largest residual risk coming from. We also suggested some calibration and validation of their erosion model that they're using to predict how much erosion there would be, and doing that using the 2017 event to be able to actually see, have you got the model parameters right in order to get an appropriate estimate of how much erosion there might be. And then also consider simulation of plausible concentrated flow scenarios. As they look at this erosion, the topography is such that the flow will concentrate, and we just need to be sure that the erosion models aren't just looking at sheet flow, but also looking at concentrated channelized flow for the amount of material that might be removed. Task number 3 that was presented to us was the flood control outlet headworks and spillway. One of the things we wanted to do here was actually test their process for screening out potential failure modes. In most places, one of the failure modes that people tend to overlook on a regular basis is that of emergency power. So they had ruled this one out, and so we kind of quizzed them a little bit and ultimately found out that they've got about 3 to 4 layers of backup power in place to make sure that they can operate the flood control outlet. So that satisfied us that, yeah, there was good reason, good cause for why they ruled this one out. To give you a little more background, they have a backup power feed from the power plant that they can use to operate the spillway gates. They have emergency generators that they can use to operate those gates, and they have provisions to where they can bring in a portable emergency generator and hook that up to be able to get them the power they need to operate the gates. So with all of those provisions in place, we thought, yeah, it makes sense that this is not one of the failure modes that you would spend a lot of time on.
Maybe a real quick question on that. Is that something that has been new with those backup modes? Because as I recall, and I could be remembering this wrong, but that was one of the concerns during the emergency, right? Is that we could lose power to the gates, right? Yeah. So are these like newer things that DWR has implemented, having these backup?
I think I'll share kind of generally, and the team maybe will add to my comments, Assemblyman. But those measures have been in place at the dam prior to the incident. However, I think there was some questions during that time of making sure those measures were all readily available in the event we had a power disruption, particularly from Hyatt Power Plant.
Right. Didn't we have a concern? Something about that, well, the line that went across the emergency spillway itself, right? If that went down, we would have no power to the gates. Is that right?
That particular line is the line that feeds and takes power from Hyatt Power Plant. So there was a kind of connected issue related to Hyatt Power Plant and the ability for the plant to get power to the gates, but then we still had those other backup sources as well.
Right. But so primarily right now, is that operated by Hyatt? Is Hyatt the power source for the head gates?
That may be a question I'll ask the team to comment a little bit more on if they're able to.
So the PG&E line.
Oh, that's fine.
So the from PG&E, the power source we have is the primary. But then Hyatt, which can be, we can also generate, and we have a source from off of that. We also have an emergency generator there. So that's kind of typically the order of which we run that. And then, as Bruce said, that we then also have provisions to bring in another spare generator if we wanted to.
Does that answer the question, Assemblyman?
Yeah. So primary is a PG&E line, which we've now moved, right? That line has been moved. It doesn't go across the emergency spillway anymore.
That's correct.
And that's the primary. And then you have Hyatt that can operate the gates too. But if Hyatt's not running, let's say we can't run water through there, then we would have a generator. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, an emergency generator. And if anything goes wrong with that, they can bring in a backup.
How long can that generator run? Do we know?
Do you know what the fuel supply is on the generator?
We had a recent issue with our jail because we lost power from PG&E, and our generators can only last so long, right?
Yes, they only last a few hours.
So that is definitely a consideration, right?
Yeah, that's probably an item, Assemblyman, we'll have to follow up with our detailed team and get an answer to. So we'll flag that.
That's a stationary on-site generator, though, not one that has to be brought in.
That's right.
I ask a follow-up question on that because with our jail, we test those every month. How often do you guys test those?
It's the same. Yeah, we have a
Monthly test?
Yeah, we actually have a monthly test as well for our standby emergency generators at our locations out here in Oroville.
Okay.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Yeah. Might be good just to make that as a follow-up, just get some more information about how long those generators, because if we have a prolonged power outage, right? You
Yep.
still got to operate the gates, and so maybe just a little bit more info
On how long they could
right,
operate.
how long we have that, and then obviously then you have the portables. What could those add to it? Might just be good to know that a little bit more in depth.
Okay, very good. All right, the second the second area that we looked at was that the team is putting together a nonlinear model to look at the seismic analysis of the dam. We recommended that in addition to looking at seismic, that they also take that same model and not with the seismic loads, but separately use that to apply the flood loads. They've done a good job of doing the stability analysis of the headwork structure for the flood loading, but this model would give them more of the insights into the stress-strain relationships on individual components within the structure to see if there's any weaknesses internally within the structure that could lead to a failure mode that hasn't been envisioned at this point. Then finally, the project integration team will take a look at the potential failure modes that could raise the probabilities used for the emergency spillway operation. So if something goes wrong in any way with the operation of the flood control outlet, it makes it more likely that you're going to end up with discharges over the emergency spillway. So that needs to be taken into account in terms of what the likelihoods are for task 1. Task 4 was looking at the low-level outlets. So when you get into looking at the low-level outlets, because of the complexity of the design of these systems, they had quite a diverse team that they had to bring together to be able to actually do the assessment of the different failure modes. We agree with the 3 levels of failure considered. What they looked at was the worst case scenario would be an uncontrolled release of the reservoir as a result of a failure of one of these outlets. The next level down was inability to deliver water. So that would be an impact to the state water project. And then the system's not functioning as designed. So that would be, you try to open a gate and it doesn't open, or you try to close a gate and it doesn't close. that may or may not have a more significant impact down the road. But those were the 3 levels that they used to kind of differentiate different types of consequences. We agree with the division of the outlets into 4 separate systems. You have the Hyatt intake and conveyance systems, which are somewhat unique in their own right. You have the Hyatt power plant, which even though it's at the end of the Hyatt intake and conveyance, it has complexities all its own and really deserves its own treatment. And then you have the river valve outlet system and the Palermo tunnel. So those are all outlet systems that we think they've properly categorized into 4 systems. Then the other thing that they've looked at is there's an opportunity this team has gotten as far as comparing their results to the level 2 risk analysis that was mandated by FERC. And we saw from their presentation reasonably good corroboration between the 2 risk analyses. By far, the vast majority of risk estimates were in agreement with one another. There are a few that seem to be a bit far off, and so teams have already been given assignments to go back, take a look at those risk estimates, and make sure they all understand the underlying assumptions and data that went into those estimates to be sure that the estimates are reasonable. On the embankment, really the primary risk drivers for the embankment are related to internal erosion. That would be seepage going through the dam and carrying material away, basically similar to the failure of Teton Dam back in 1976. Overtopping, so outlets not being able to discharge enough water to where then flow goes over the dam itself. And then instabilities, which would be more of a slope stability in the embankment material. So one of the things that we brought up was when you get to the internal erosion failure mode, there's pretty typically a great deal of uncertainty because it is very difficult to see inside the dam and understand exactly what's taking place. Usually what we see is evidence that presents itself on the surface after things kind of get worse. And so one of the things we suggested was that they give some consideration to, as they're developing measures, making sure that they have taken into account these uncertainties, which kind of create wide bands of uncertainty around internal erosion. So that was one of our recommendations. The second question we were asked is, do we have any recommendations or comments on the screening process? We felt like their process adequately allows for consideration of all the previously identified failure modes, new failure modes identified by the CNA teams, and new failure modes identified by the level 2 risk analysis. They have a team in place to review any decisions not to carry forward a potential failure mode for further analysis. And so we support that. And we also agree with their process for developing their initial conceptual measures. So these are potential remedial actions that they would consider. And that would eventually lead to feasible measures that would then become alternatives for consideration by DWR management. Part of that process includes identifying any fatal flaws with any measures they come up with, and we think that it'll be pretty effective in terms of meeting the project objectives of reducing risk. All right, did we have any recommendations or comments on the embankment piezometer installation? We really felt like this achieves the objective of identifying early risk reduction measures. One of the things from our first meeting was if you see something that is just obviously the right thing to do and is low-hanging fruit, relatively low cost, Don't wait for the report. Do it. And we think this falls into that category. We agree in concept with the rationale presented for additional piezometers, and we just recommended that they add 2 more piezometers to two piezometers that are in very critical locations. I think Les is probably going to talk a little more in detail and give you more background on exactly what all that looks like. We just felt there were 2 that were particularly critical that deserved a backup pair of piezometers to verify that data. Fourth question, does the IRB have any recommendations or comments on the Task 1 preliminary measures? So Task 1 had actually progressed beyond just looking at the existing conditions. So this is the emergency spillway, and they were putting together some actual proposed measures, and not that these are, you know, they're going forward as a proposal, but more brainstorming of what could be done to lower the risk, the residual risk that is still associated with the emergency spillway. So our comments on that, I think they've developed a reasonably wide range of alternative measures. And then we also suggested development of kind of an efficient and consistent process for expediting the selection of the, you know, reducing this down to the actual candidate measures that would move on as feasible measures for consideration.
Can you maybe just really quickly give
Yeah.
an example of some of the measures that are being considered?
One of them was lining the entire hillside all the way down to the diversion pool. Another one was do nothing. That perhaps what's been done is sufficient by itself. Another was just create a channel. One of them as a straight channel, another one as a kind of an S-shaped channel that would more follow the topography and be less expensive to build. So that kind of gives you some idea.
And you guys like the straight one.
We do. And so let me jump down to the next one. So the reason being that once that water gets its momentum, it's going to be very difficult to actually change its direction. So without a tremendous amount of armoring, a straight channel actually provides something that you can have more confidence in its performance. I will say, give DWR an opportunity to work through these. I think this was presented to us in order to get our feedback on their process for how they're going about doing this, rather than this being the final suite of alternatives or candidate alternatives for the emergency spillway. So it's a work in progress. Let's give them a chance to fully develop that. And I think perhaps we'll see more of that when we get to meeting number 6. And then finally, the other point we brought up is that one of the more important factors to consider here is having a good understanding of the bedrock jointing on that abutment. That has a big impact on how much material can be removed. This isn't, well, so the surface layer is more of a soil type material, but once you get beyond that, how much rock would actually be removed is highly dependent on the orientation of the joint and the condition of the joint sets in the geology. And so we just ask that they make sure that they've done a good job of characterizing that and understanding how that would affect the erosion process.
Have you done any projections as to how do we continue to check underneath, for example? One of my first questions was, did you do boring over the decades? Boring down underneath. Now, do we have a means to survey underneath to see what's going on? And for example, we had some of the drains plugged with roots, and then there was erosion, and you could, that was clearly evident when it broke.
So Paul was actually on the board that reviewed the replacement of the spillway. I would say the general design of the spillway is such that it doesn't rely as much on drainage as it does on the sheer mass of the concrete to be able to hold itself down. Whereas in the original service spillway or FCO spillway, it was relying on anchor bars, drainage, and things like that. The emergency spillway was put in with mass roller compacted concrete in order to give it the sheer mass that it needs to be able to stay in place by its own weight. Steve?
But Bruce, there were also about 167 holes drilled through the 10-foot thick apron down into the foundation.
Into the bedrock?
Also vent any water pressures there, and they serve as drains.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks, Steve.
And a quick question on.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to get copies of the bid package for this spillway, or is that under wraps?
So just to clarify, the bid package for the work that's been completed, Rune?
Did that go out for a public bid?
It went out for public bid or bid by a select group of contractors. The documents were characterized as critical energy infrastructure information because of, some of the details could be used to point out vulnerabilities in the structures. So I think we would have to maybe explore a little bit further, what parts of those packages can be shared and which parts have sensitivity.
Well, some of that would be determination by FERC too, wouldn't it?
That's correct. We're complying with FERC's requirements for how we treat that information.
Are you getting that, Rune, that it'd be good to have at least some ability to look at how was, what were the specs, I guess, of how that was constructed?
Yeah, I'll just make global comments. I think this whole thing has been an experiment, right, to open up dialogue between the community and the Department of Water Resources with the IRB as kind of an impartial body. Going back and looking at the charter, it says the Ad Hoc Group will review and comment on efforts by the department and IRB. And really looking at this question of review, what does that really mean and how detailed? And so we go to these meetings, we hear a synopsis, a summary, right? But we don't have the ability to independently check on many of things because there is access or whatever. So the notion of kind of trust but verify is constrained a little bit. So I guess what I wanted to do was just kind of explore as we hear all of these, great findings and conclusions and summaries, the ability for the public side to kind of do an independent check on. Yes, I would have come to the same conclusion that of the 5 things they discarded, that they were all reasonable. How does that kind of fall back to us being able to just kind of vet that? So a higher level question, I don't need an answer, but as I hear these things, that's kind of the thought that's in my head is, sounds great, but how do we, the public, independently gain some trust and understanding that, what we're hearing is representative of what's actually happening? And I'm not saying that you're mischaracterizing, it's just from a review standpoint, how do we...
But I think it is also important to point out that the scope for this IRB is different than the scope for the IRB that actually reviewed the spillway replacement and repairs. So there was a completely separate IRB that was in place to do that review. So we're trusting, and honestly, that's part of why Paul is on this IRB, is to be able to bring the knowledge of what went on in that review process to this IRB as we look forward to how to address what the residual risks are.
I think that's good. And I think the forward-looking element is important, right? Because this was an experiment. I don't think the department has done this before. So, maybe as we get towards the end, maybe next session or something, if we could set aside some time and kind of talk about, hey, these were really good aspects of the interaction. These were areas where maybe we could do things better, and let's not do these things again. Or just have some kind of, kumbaya touch base on what worked, what didn't work, and hopefully we can do more of these sorts of things in the spirit of really streamlined communications between the department. There are things you can share and can't share, but of the things that you can share, how do we package those so that people can kind of check for themselves? That's essentially how you build trust, right? Is they said this, go out, look, is that what's there? And how do we build more of that in to kind of foster the effective communication?
So that leads right into the next question that we were asked, and that was, do we have any recommendations or comment on the final task level report outlines? So there's going to be an overall report that will be written from the perspective of, informing the public of what was done with this study. But the task level reports are really the detailed technical reports that the teams will put together to kind of explain everything that lies underneath. We commend the team for what they've put together in the way of an overall outline and a template that really gives a roadmap for each one of the teams to document the work that they've done. That I would say for where we are in this study, they are light years ahead of where most teams would be in the way of putting documentation together. And so they at least have the framework. Everybody has the expectation of what has to be documented along the way, rather than getting to the end and going, geez, I wish we would have thought about that, or I need to go back and do another analysis because I didn't think that I was going to have to write to that particular subject. They know what they have to do. This helps define the scope of what each of those teams has to accomplish. One of the things that we thought was particularly good was the use of some text boxes to highlight key material and draw attention to that. And we agree there. So while you want to provide as much information for the public as possible, there is also a balance in protecting CEII data, critical energy information or infrastructure information. And so we agree with the notion that these task level reports will fall under that label of CEII information. And what's particularly good about that is you don't leave it to the technical people trying to perform the work to try to figure out what is CEII information. They are able to write their reports, document everything that they did, and then when it is all brought together and put into an overall report, other folks can figure out what belongs in CEII, what belongs in the public domain. So that it can actually be shared with folks, and we agree with that approach. All right, do we have any recommendations or comments on the comparison with the Level 2 risk analysis mandated by FERC? So where the CNA process and the Level 2 risk analysis process intersect is basically on extreme events with life loss consequences. And so it's not that we can check the results for every single scenario that was looked at, but for those where there's an intersection, we were able to take a look. And what we saw was general agreement for the vast majority of the potential failure mode cases. We also thought it was interesting to note that the team doing the Level 2 risk analysis is primarily a team made up of industry experts with vast knowledge nationally and internationally about dams in general, whereas the teams that are doing it for the CNA are staff that are really intimately familiar with the details of Oroville Dam. And so to have as close of agreement as there was between those estimates, we thought was pretty remarkable, that the process seems to be robust enough that two teams with very different makeups could end up coming up with very similar results. Now, there are some differences, and one of the things we looked at was there a pattern to those differences? But what we saw was that there was no one team that tended to overall be more conservative or less conservative. That where there were differences, they seemed to be rather randomly distributed, with each of the teams being more conservative in some and less conservative on others. And then where the differences are significant, the CNA task teams are really reviewing the basis of their estimates, so they can go back and really validate, do they really have confidence in those estimates, or do they need to make some adjustments? And we felt that it was actually a pretty unique opportunity in any risk assessment to have any opportunity at all to actually do some quality assurance. It's one of these unique situations where maybe not for every estimate that was made, but for a large number, to be able to take a look, get a comparison, and make some judgments about, does it seem like everybody is on the same page?
Real quick on that.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's good to have both an national, international perspective as well as intimate knowledge of this particular project, and that's good to have that kind of back and forth, right? I mean, kind of both eyes looking at that. And I get that you're describing the process. What were some of the examples of the differences, the significant differences that we're talking about, right? Like,
Les, can I leave that
I'll cover some of that.
in a presentation?
okay, is that coming up in a next presentation later?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, well, cool. Then
Okay.
we'll go there. All right.
Yep. All right, the seventh question we were asked is, did we have any recommendations on the comments or comments on the comment log, which I gave you a summary up front, so we won't spend any more time on that here. And any other recommendations? One recommendation that we did have is there was some discussion about direct versus indirect costs. It was our sense on the IRB that a lot of the language around direct and indirect costs that was being used was coming from an asset management perspective. So we've just asked DWR to go back and reconsider what they're using as definitions. This is really intended to be a water resources management planning study, and we think that the definitions of direct and indirect costs might actually be a little bit different in that context. And so we've just asked DWR to take a look at that as to what they intend the study to be used for, and make sure that their definitions of indirect and direct costs align with the purposes of what they ultimately intend to use the study for. And other than that, we just suggested some topics for meeting number 6. Basically looking at what are the completed results of the existing conditions assessment, and progress reports related to identification of measures for risk reduction, also identifying what measures were screened out from further consideration for risk reduction so that we're aware of what's being screened out, and then progress in completing some of the background information. Part of what we're trying to do is just push the teams to set some objectives for themselves to be documenting along the way. And we believe that background information for each of the tasks should be able to be pretty much written at this point in time and be able to be reviewed, so that we just don't get a report dumped in our lap at the end of it, and we're trying to get through the whole thing all at once. So with that, questions?
Could you just elaborate or define a little bit on the difference between a direct and indirect? Does that have to do with budgeting?
So I think I've tried to simplify it in my mind as what's at the core of how is asset management different than dam safety or water resources planning. And I kind of look at it as asset management is more concerned with the allocation of existing resources within the organization, whereas dam safety or water resources management is about looking more broadly in order to be able to identify what are the costs that have to be considered in order to go somewhere and make the case for additional resources that perhaps the organization doesn't already have.
Similar to the repair of the spillway.
Yeah.
You float a bond, be it the state,
be at the state, but there's going to have to be justification for that. They're going to want to know what are the statewide implications from an economic perspective, what are the national implications from a economic perspective, what are the impacts to people of a long-term loss of water delivery, all of those kinds of things that maybe you wouldn't actually think about in just an asset management framework.
Is that something that we're gonna maybe explore a little bit more in the following meeting, the next meeting, versus taking up too much time in this one?
So for me, that's a question for Ted. We've made the recommendation to look into this a little bit further. So we'll wait for DWR to give that some thought and think about how they'll approach that.
Yeah, and Bruce, maybe I can just add from a
Yeah.
process perspective, so the IRB has made that comment to us, we'll now be considering it and expect that it would be a discussion at a subsequent meeting, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah.
Just a quick question. Looking at your comment log, the top line, it talks about they develop a plan for execution of project integration, perhaps under task 7. This one's listed as closed. In the comments, I see concur to date we have formed an integration team, developed integration project management plan in process, and developed CNA work plan showing interdependencies in process. In your closeout scheme, would you mark something as closed when they've actually done the thing that you wanted them to do or initiated? Because when I read this, it says they've started that process, but how do we know that it's in line with what your expected outcomes and intentions were on that comment?
Okay, so let me give you a little more background. The comments that are in there are DWR's essentially response to us kind of explaining things. We look at that and say, have they accomplished what they needed to accomplish? The intent of that recommendation was we really felt like that perhaps there was a task 7 that needed to be identified for the overall integration of all of the tasks. They chose to accomplish that in a different way than what we had explained. They actually set up something that they called the project integration team. And so it's really I guess, Sergio, is it fair for me to describe it as a project management team over all of the 6 tasks that is looking to make sure that all of the information feeds together and makes sense when it all comes together, that there haven't been gaps missed along the way. And so once they had established that team, and we saw that that team was working effectively to address many of the issues that were cross-task issues, then we considered it closed without needing another update. So the comments may not be the total story. They were just what DWR gave us as information for us to consider. We combined that information with what we heard in presentations, what we see in the documents that are presented to us, and then we make a judgment, have they accomplished the intent of that particular recommendation?
So just an observation then from kind of the receiving end, your description is wonderful. And it's actually a little more informative than what I see on the sheet here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's possible, but if you could add like another column that basically has that little rationale from a receiving end, that's far more meaningful and understand what's going on than kind of the things that we see in here. I don't know if there's other issues, but just that one popped up because it was first on the list. It's like, oh, it's closed, but here they're saying things are in progress, and what does that really mean?
Okay, and I think we can have some discussion with DWR about what's the process for ensuring that in the comments log, there's kind of a complete description that would help somebody understand why it was closed.
Sure, and on our end, if there is this integration thing, you know, if we can get some information on, hey, integration sounds nice and wonderful, but, you know, what are the details or an overview or something so that we have a slightly better understanding of what integration really means. It's one of those loaded words, like safety.
Okay, very good. Okay. Was there another?
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
If I may, just to follow up on the spillway power, and a little clarification. So our primary source is the Thermalito Diversion Dam Power Plant, which feeds back towards Hyatt. Our secondary is the 230 kV line, PG&E lines. We have a third one, which we could use Hyatt Power Plant. And then the emergency generator is the fourth, local, and then the fifth would be the plug-in for the second emergency generator. Our current emergency generator, my understanding, has approximately about 50 hours runtime under rated load. But one thing I want to remind is that those gates, once they're set, it requires no load because they're hanging there. And so it's just required to move them, and then they sit for hours in place based on the flood schedule.
Very good. Thank you for the update.
That's good to have that.
Thank you, I appreciate that precision.
All right.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, next on the agenda is Les Harder, who's going to talk about the development of the potential failure modes and the condition assessment.
Thanks, Ted. This presentation is going to have two halves. One's going to be a background on information we've presented before, maybe going into a little bit more detail. And then the second part will be talking about the existing conditions assessment, which is a risk analysis that the CNA process is carrying out. So on background, we'll start with the purpose, just remind people of what we're doing with the CNA. And basically, the purpose of the comprehensive needs assessment, we all remember, is to identify and prioritize dam safety enhancements. That's to document existing conditions, identify current dam safety risks, and then to identify potential risk reduction measures to bolster safety and reliability. Develop prioritized list of safety and reliability needs, and provide a set of alternative plans for DWR management to consider in future investment. So this commitment for this comprehensive needs assessment was made by DWR to FERC and the Division of Safety of Dams in basically 2 years ago, in June 2017, in letters to both agencies. It was reiterated and detailed some of the tasks that would be underway in a January 2018 letter to FERC, basically to identify needs and potential projects. Well, what's the final product of this is going to be? Well, this final product is targeted to be completed in May of next year. It will be a report documenting an existing conditions assessment that identifies current dam safety risks at the Oroville Dam complex, opportunities to reduce risk, and a set of alternative plans that DWR could consider for future implementation for risk reduction. So that's what we're all aiming for in about 9 months from now. So I wanted to review risk-informed decision-making. This initiative is centered on that. So risk-informed decision-making, RIDM, is an approach, is the process of making safety decisions by evaluating if existing risks are tolerable and present risk measures are adequate. And if not, whether alternative risk reduction measures are justified. This is a definition from FEMA. And just a reminder what risk is, it's the product of the likelihood of an adverse event times the consequences of that event. And that's the definition from the Bureau of Reclamation. So we work with risks as a society every day. So this is a risk chart. It's several decades old, but it still is pertinent. It talks about tolerable levels of risk that society has accepted for different industries and facilities. So on the vertical axis is the annual probability of failure or an event, bad event. So down here you're at 10⁻⁶, which is a very rare event. That's 1 in a million. We go up to 1 in 10,000, 100,000, 1 in 10,000, all the way up to 1 in 10. And on this axis is the potential for lives lost. And out here, you're as high as 10,000 lives, and over here, you're at 1 or less. We can also do the same thing for dollars. So we look at different types of facilities that society has chosen to accept or find tolerable for risk, and we find like mine pit slopes where they're mining for various ore, and they have frequent slumps of the slopes, but because it doesn't kill anybody typically, we're willing to accept, that likelihood is maybe 1 out of 10. But as we go to other facilities like ocean drill rigs or super tankers that could hurt people, kill people, have a lot of impacts on finances, resources, we want those to have lower risk. So we said, well, maybe down here we're 1 chance out of 100 in any 1 year. So refineries are even higher. Dams, we're typically looking at the odds or the probability in any 1 year is 1 in 10,000. And for dams that could possibly hurt large numbers of people, we want only accept lower probabilities. So maybe down here as low as 1 in a million.
So Les, you're saying you're safer on a plane than by a dam?
Pardon me?
You're safer on a plane than you are by a dam?
Depends on the dam. It depends on the plane. So the first step in a written process is to assess and compare risks. So we look at potential failure modes. And we identify possible scenarios, which are potential failure modes that would lead to an adverse impact. Estimate the likelihood of each scenario occurring, estimate the consequences of each scenario, estimate the risk, which is the product of those two, and then compare risk across several scenarios to help prioritize future risk reduction. So we've talked about potential failure modes, but just to remind ourselves, what is a potential failure mode? It is a chain of events leading to unsatisfactory performance of the dam or a portion thereof. The dam does not have to completely fail in the sense of a complete release of the impounded water. Failure modes that result in unintended releases of water, such as the Folsom Dam radial gate failure, are also considered. We might remember that in 1995, one of the radial gates on Folsom failed and released part of the reservoir, but it did not release all of the reservoir.
About half of it.
Pardon?
About half of it.
But not all of it. So that's the point. It doesn't have to release all of it.
Right.
Potential failure mode analysis, PFMA, that's the process to determine potential failure modes pertinent to the dam investigation. And these are definitions from FERC. FERC has required potential failure mode analyses since 2002. And typically they are done on workshops and inspections every 5 years. So basically when you develop a potential failure mode, you first think about what could initiate something bad happening, like if the reservoir is high and you start getting internal erosion of the dam. And then does it continue? Does it progress? Does progression keep going? And eventually, could it go all the way to a breach of the dam and the release of the reservoir? So it's a step-by-step process. And to estimate the likelihood or probability of such a thing going on, you put a probability for each of those steps. And you can do a nodal analysis, which says at each step, you estimate the probability of that continuing. And you do it step by step for each of these things. In this case, this is an example, one from the Bureau of Reclamation. You end up with 3 times 10 to the minus 4, or roughly 1 in 3,000 likelihood for in any 1 year. Or you can do it qualitatively. And this is a chart where you say, well, I don't have enough information to do those nodal analyses and nodal probabilities, but I can estimate just based on judgment and past performance what the likelihood would be. This is done qualitatively. And so, for instance, for a low probability, which is a range from 1 in a million to 1 in 100,000, the descriptor is the possibility cannot be ruled out, the fundamental condition or defect is postulated, and evidence indicates it is very unlikely. Or maybe you think it's very high, which is likelihood is 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 100. There is direct evidence or substantial indirect evidence to suggests that failure has initiated or is likely to occur. Either way is acceptable. This is actually guidance from the guidance document by FERC for level 2 analyses. You plot those on a risk chart where you plot likelihood versus consequence. These are boxes because they're only estimating to the order of magnitude. So these are different results for different potential failure modes. This is a relatively low risk because it's low likelihood and low consequence. This is for a potential failure mode related to an outlet tower at a dam. This one's relatively high. This is related to the radial gates on the spillway of a dam. This one's intermediate. This is internal erosion on the right abutment of a dam. And these dashed lines here, this diagonal one here, and this other one, and this other area, those are guidelines of what to do if they plot in different areas. And sometimes you can estimate to one order of magnitude, like this one, or sometimes you have so much uncertainty you estimate over 1, 2, or more, depending on your uncertainty. You can also use this approach to evaluate measures to reduce risk. So in this case, you have a relatively high risk because it's high likelihood and pretty high consequence. This is a hydrologic risk. This is a potential failure mode associated with a flood event. It's relatively high, and because it's above this dashed line for guidance, it's generally rated pretty high risk, which means that there's an impetus to look at measures to reduce that risk. So you can consider a risk, or a measure rather, that might reduce this. This might be improving the radial gates. It could be raising the dam. It could be doing something intermediate like armoring the dam. And you can consider which of these gives you the biggest bang, biggest risk reduction, and so also the biggest risk reduction per bang for your buck. We're going to be doing this in the CNA. We're going to be using this process to evaluate the potential measures that we're going to identify. Okay, we've talked about the level 2 risk analysis already, but just to remind ourselves, this is mandated by the federal government in the budget resolution of last fall. And in the budget conference report from dated September 20th, this language was inserted. It said that FERC shall require the licensee of Oroville Dam to request the United States Society on Dams to nominate independent consultants to prepare a level 2 risk analysis consistent with the Commission's guidelines for use in conducting the next Part 12 safety review of Oroville Dam, currently scheduled for 2019. FERC shall ensure the independence of the nominated consultants from the licensee. So the key things here is, 1, it's going to be done by an independent group, and 2, it's going to be done by a level 2 risk analysis, which has never been done before in FERC Part 12s. So typically in FERC Part 12s, they estimate potential failure modes, and the way they estimate risk is they put it into 4 categories. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Category 1 is highlighted potential failure modes. These are potential failure modes that have the greatest significance. Category 2 these are potential failure modes, but they have lesser significance and likelihood. Category 3 is they don't have enough information to evaluate it, and so further study would be needed. Category 4 is the potential failure mode is ruled out because it's considered to be such a very low risk, it's not really feasible to occur. That's what everybody's been doing for about 20 years. Now, for the level 2, they're now saying, instead of these 4 categories, we want you to plot these things on a semi-quantitative risk analysis in a risk chart. So, never happened before by FERC-mandated processes. So, to do this, experts were nominated and selected from 9 different consulting firms and agencies, including the Corps of Engineers Risk Management Center. Reached out across the entire nation. We brought in Robin Fell, who's an expert on internal erosion on dams from Australia. large number group. They were supported by subject matter experts from DWR who very know how the facility was built, how it has performed, and other features of it, how it's operated. There was oversight provided by FERC, DSOD. We also brought in Eric Halpin. He's the former chief of levee and dam safety of the Corps of Engineers, and also Steve Townsley, who's currently at the Risk Management Center for the Corps of Engineers. And also the 10th Part 12 Independent Consulting Board with Dr. Mejia, Dr. Bowles, and Drew Kennedy, who will be making their independent assessment and review of the dam. And members of the Comprehensive Needs Assessment team, including Sergio Escobar, the project manager, and several of the task leads for the different facilities were present for most of these workshops. These workshops generally had 60 or more people in them for a week at a time on different facilities where the failure modes were considered, and if carried forward, they were developed, and their likelihood or probability was estimated. So the level 2 started out with 171 potential failure modes, and where these came from, some of them came from past potential failure mode workshops in previous years, a lot of them from 2009 and 2014. And then in addition, the level 2 facilitation team asked all the various participants to brainstorm on their own and submit potential failure modes of how something bad could happen at the dam. And that was submitted to the facilitation team, and they collected them and assembled a list, and that totaled 171. That's what the level 2 team started with. So of the 171, 35 were involved with the 3 embankments, the main dam and the 2 saddle dams. 19 were involved with the emergency spillway, 64 for the FCO, and 53 for the outlets. And then during this process, some of these PFMs that were previously considered but not developed were considered again. And during the workshops, additional PFMs in addition to these 171 were added and considered. So in going through the process, outlining the step-by-step progression of a potential failure mode, estimating its likelihood. In this case, this one has a lot of uncertainty. It has 3 orders of magnitude of estimates. So that's what's been going on with the level 2 since January. So I want to talk about the Comprehensive Needs Existing Conditions Assessment. It is a parallel but separate risk analysis. It's also semi-quantitative like a level 2 risk analysis. Originally, the CNA group was going to rely on the results of the level 2. But unfortunately, the level 2 schedule was delayed because they ended up doing so much work, their schedule got extended by over 6 months. And that meant that their results would not be timely for us because we have a pretty tight schedule to complete things by May. So we had a need basically to start working on this on our own and develop our own risk estimates. And as we got into it, we realized we had to do this anyway. So the need for the Comprehensive Needs Existing Conditions Assessment, that's the risk analysis, is that the deferred level 2 schedule no longer met the CNA schedule. So the CNA teams need to develop and understand what potential failure modes had the highest risk, and they had to do that sooner than what the level 2 could produce. So the original schedule for the level 2 risk analysis, they're going to start in January and finish by March. Well, they found out they only got a quarter of the way done at the end of March, so they had to extend the schedule. So they had additional workshops in May, June, July, and they actually finished up on the spillways last week. Well, we needed to know this information sooner than that. Because our schedule calls for us to finish in May of 2020. We're now halfway through 2019, and we already are working on measures to reduce risk. We had to know the risks sooner than that, and not all that information from the level 2s has been developed yet. So another reason why it turns out that we needed to do our own analysis is that the level 2 is largely focused on ultimate failure conditions for each PFM with an uncontrolled release of the reservoir. So when we talk about ultimate failure, ultimate failure state, that could be like a failure of the main dam. Breach of the main dam breaches and loses all the reservoir. There are other failure states like heavy damage that don't do that. For the flood control outlet headworks with the 8 radial gates, an ultimate failure state could be you lose all 8 gates and you lose a good part of the reservoir, perhaps half the reservoir. But an intermediate heavy damage state means maybe all the gates break and they're jammed, they just can't open. And so on. Each facility has intermediate states, not just the ultimate failure. The level 2 has largely been focused on life loss, whereas the CNA is using the asset management risk process, which has 5 criteria. One of those is life loss, but there's 4 other ones as well. And the level 2 will not be considering risk reduction measures. They're just looking at existing conditions. But that's our mission in the CNA, is to look at risk reduction measures. So it's actually important to have the people, for consistency, those who are estimating the existing risks be consistent with estimating the risks as they are reduced with a potential measure. So it turns out we needed to do this anyway. So our existing conditions assessment, this risk analysis, we do benefit from the parallel level 2. Our process is intended as a preliminary assessment of existing conditions to avoid further delays. We will make use of the results of the level 2 analyses and products. Some of them are available now, and some of them will be available in a month or 2. We will utilize that additional information from the level 2 results as they become available and circle back to the level 2 risk analysis when completed so that they could be reconciled. We expect at the end of both processes the results will be similar, particularly on the potential failure mode development and life loss consequences estimates. All right, so now I want to transition to talk about what we're doing with the existing conditions assessment and the PFM development and evaluation. So just as a reminder, we have the asset management matrix and criteria, and it provides criteria that leads us to plan formulation principles. So the asset management process has 7 criteria. We merged them into 5. So we took public safety and worker on-site safety, combined it to a principle of maximizing public safety. This is regulatory compliance, including both dam safety compliance and environmental compliance. And we have a goal or a principle to maximize regulatory compliance. We've kept this one on maximizing flexibility and reliability for water delivery. And we have another one for maximizing flexibility and reliability for other state water project purposes. And those other purposes could include, besides water delivery, power generation, recreation, and enhancing the habitat. And we look at financial impact, which is both direct and indirect. Direct is basically what it would take to replace or repair a facility that's broken. So 2 years ago, we had damage to the FCO chute and some erosion damage to the emergency spillway. To repair those and address the emergency, it was over $1 billion. That's the direct impacts. So if we lost some of the facilities and created downstream impacts that largely, didn't happen in 2017. But if that happened in the future, the department would be sued. The cost of litigation and damages, that's part of the indirect.
Les, would evacuation count as an indirect cost?
Pardon me?
The cost of evacuation?
I don't know the answer to that. So this is the original asset management matrix that DBER had. Unfortunately, it was not made for the potential for large dam safety issues, so the consequences, particularly in life loss and finances, didn't go very high. It only went up to potential of a loss of life of up to 10. And so the level 2 risk matrix, they had to expand it. This is the matrix they're using. We had to expand it as well. This is our matrix. So again, the vertical side is the annual probability. So this is less than 1 in 10 million, all the way up to a very high probability happening in any 1 year. Our consequences go from insignificant to minor to extreme to really extreme and catastrophic.
Is 11 super duper catastrophic?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is 11 super duper catastrophic?
Yes, it is extremely catastrophic.
You had 5 consequence categories. I see 2 on these plots. Is there a way to find out what the other 3 demarcations are?
I'll show some of them right now. So just for reference, that was the original asset management matrix that DBER has had. This is the one that the level 2 is using, and we're using this combined expanded one. So for comparison, I showed you those red dashed lines as federal guidance on an earlier plot. This is their guidance here. And basically above this top dashed line and into the red here, those are, if you plot there, then you have a responsibility to look at seeing if you can reduce that risk, because it's considered to be a relatively high risk. If you plot between these 2 dashed lines or into the yellow on the asset management, that's a moderate risk. You don't have the impetus necessarily to do a large effort to reduce the risk, but you have a responsibility to look at doing something that might be reasonable to reduce the risk. So something up here, way up here, might require a major structural fix, maybe. It might also require an interim fix. So an example on DBR for dam safety is Paris Dam, located in Southern California. It was determined to have a liquefaction problem in its foundation. So there was a major repair costing, just an awful lot of money made in the last few years there, but there was also an interim risk reduction measure. They restricted the reservoir, lowered the reservoir until the repair was completed. In here, you may not do a structural repair, but you might look at doing something that's reasonable, like maybe improving your communication lines, and improving maybe additional generators or something like that. If you're below this lower line or into the green on the asset management, that's a relatively low risk, and you generally aren't compelled or have the impetus to do reduced risk. Although there's still a general recommendation to look at seeing if you can do something reasonable and something simple to reduce risk further.
Hey, Les, a quick question on that one. If you go back and look at the original core guidance, those lines were established in a context where there was trust between the community and the people doing the assessments. Did you guys have any evaluation of what would you do in a situation where there may not be that trust? How would those lines move?
We have not. We are hoping to promote trust with the community.
So Les, I can address that from the reclamation perspective.
So Rune, with 450 dams, the Bureau of Reclamation has been through that issue. Some communities have more trust with reclamation than others do. And the way that reclamation approached it was trust or not, that we wanted a consistent means of doing it so that we could demonstrate that all dams were getting equal treatment regardless of what that relationship was between the community and the organization.
So just from a context standpoint, then, this is what the baseline thresholds are. It's not a negotiated discussion between the community and the owner. This is a mutually agreeable space, but this is the space that's being delineated for the purposes of this assessment.
So not to speak for DWR, because this is their entry into this, but for reclamation, what this was the beginning of discussion. What this was intended to do is not be a criteria that says a dam does or doesn't get modified, but what it was to get you focused on what were the aspects of a particular dam that needed attention, needed discussion, and what our finding at reclamation was we had far better discussions and discussions about issues that had not been talked about in the history of the dam, but needed to be talked about.
So maybe a topic for the next meeting, it'd be interesting to hear more about what the Bureau has done in terms of community engagement and continuing those discussions about where should the lines be or not be.
So as the CNA approached this, we did the same way to level 2. We started out with the same 171 potential failure modes and added to them. We did the same kind of process, did a step-by-step estimates or used qualitative approaches when that information wasn't available. And this is a key thing. This is a slide about what's important about potential failure modes. This is a slide from a training workshop put on by FERC in 2015. And the point of this, if you look at this at the top here, is to the FERC, this is their language, a failure is an uncontrolled release of water. Operation of an emergency spillway is not an uncontrolled release of water. If the licensee has concerns about unacceptable performance, it might be a concern to the licensee, but it's not a dam safety problem unless it's an uncontrolled release of water. So in the 2014 Part 12 PFM workshop, there was a potential failure mode for the control spillway, the FCO, about potential erosion on the chute. And there was another one on the emergency spillway also associated with erosion. And several of you, I think, have remember that and have commented that the workshop did not carry that forward. They considered it, but they did not develop it. And Assemblyman, I think you commented on that on an early meeting here. So they had thought about it, but they didn't develop it. Why didn't they develop it? Because they didn't think it could lead to an uncontrolled release of water. Because that's the guidance that was in place in 2015 and 2017.
Well,
so what happened?
Well, I'd add to that, wasn't also part of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but also part of that was a reliance on this sort of myth that that the rock was solid and that this could not happen, right?
No.
No,
it was understood that the rock could erode. In fact, there's a 2009 DWR study that talks about how that rock on the hillside could erode. So there was an understanding that the hillside there could erode. I don't think they understood that it would erode so preferentially close to the monoliths on the emergency spillway. So what happened in 2017 on both of these spillways, those potential failure modes, developed. They occurred, but they didn't lead to an uncontrolled release. They was not considered a true failure. And we all recognize now that even though that was not an official failure, not an uncontrolled release, it still wasn't acceptable. And so the independent forensic team commented on that. And this is from their January 2018 report, final report. And under lessons learned, they said, in practice today, PFMAs appear to be limited mainly to consideration of potential failure modes that lead to uncontrolled release of the reservoir. This can lead to potential failure modes with significant consequences short of reservoir release being ruled out of further consideration. In the case of Oroville Dam, the 2014 PFMA team essentially identified the 2 failure modes, which initiated in February 2017, but ruled them out in large part because they were judged to be unlikely to lead to release of stored reservoir water. By ruling out these failure modes, they may have been removed from any further consideration in subsequent studies, including future PFMAs. So the independent forensic team said one of the lessons learned is don't just rely on, think about a total breach, total failure, or uncontrolled release. There's other consequences you should be thinking about. And this is a lesson for the industry across the world probably, but certainly in the United States, not only for the industry and dam owners and consultants, but also regulatory agencies. This is still the process that FERC uses. There's been no guidance given since 2017. So we took this to heart. This was one of the most important lessons that I think we all learned from 2017, and just wanted to talk a little bit about that. So consider the emergency spillway today. So there is almost about $250 million was sunk into these upgrades here. There was a secant pile wall that was put in here. It's 35 to 70 feet deep to isolate and protect this apron. The apron is a roller compacted concrete apron. It's 10 to 30 feet thick. The existing 20 large monoliths were buttressed, and a new wall was put in here, crest wall. Altogether, $250, $300 million, as I remember. So if you got a large flood, really large flood, what could happen here? What would be one of the potential failure modes? So the ultimate failure state, and we don't think this is very likely, but the ultimate failure state might be the secant pile wall fails, the apron is eroded away, and you end up breaching the 6 large monoliths at this end. That would be an uncontrolled release. That would be a failure. And there would be significant incremental damages downstream. That's the ultimate failure state. That complies with past guidance with FERC. But what we also are looking at is what about the likelihood of just heavy damage? So this would be a heavy damage state. So the apron fails, or rather the secant pile wall fails, the apron is undermined, but the monoliths stay in place. They don't fail. In that case, that is not an uncontrolled release. It's heavy damage, but it's not uncontrolled release, and there is no significant downstream damages. So this is analogous in some ways to what happened on the control spillway in 2017. Heavy damage, but not uncontrolled release.
Last question, there are upstream dams. Did any of these scenarios take into consideration inundation from an upstream dam breaching?
In the hydrologic effects, I don't believe so directly, but they considered PMF, which is PMF, probable maximum flood, and they also considered floods higher than the probable maximum flood. So the probable maximum flood is a 1 in 21,000 year event. We also looked at 40,000 year events and 100,000 year events, which would probably encompass anything that you're thinking about upstream dams and failures. We also looked at another damage state, stepping back from the ultimate failure. This is a lighter damage where you get localized failure, just very localized failure of the secant pile wall here, and maybe a little bit of damage of the apron. But again, the monoliths hold, no uncontrolled release, no significant incremental downstream damages. So we can plot this. This is a plot for life loss. So the ultimate damage state here, its likelihood is less than 1 in 10 million. it potentially, if you lost those 6 mile lists, could induce significant loss of life, possibly even more than 100 people. So it would plot here. But those other damaged states, they have no significant life loss. So they plot over there. That's on the life loss criteria. Remember, we have 5. All of those do have regulatory compliance impacts. So they are not all insignificant.
Quick question, Les. Going back to your slide that had, I guess it was the first one after the level 2 risk analysis is on page 21. You've got specific metrics called out for public safety and financial impacts for the categories 1, 2 through 11. Do you have a similar descriptor for what these regulatory compliance attributes would be? Like what's a 3 versus a 5?
Yeah, we have criteria for those, and each of those actually have about 4 or 5 sub-criteria as well. Regulatory compliance involves compliance with federal power regulators, dam safety regulators, environmental, and we rate about criteria like, is there, as a result, do you get more oversight? Do you get a lot more oversight? Is there a violation with fines? Do you get the project taken away from you? Those are, some of the things to consider under regulatory compliance.
Is it possible to share that breakdown? I'm not sure that was in the presentation.
No, it's not in the presentation. We could talk about it. One of the things that we'll be doing probably at the next meeting is a lot of what we're doing in depth on potential failure modes are CEII. And so what we want to do is, we can't release that information, but is find a way to summarize, at least at a high level, that we could release to the public. And that's one of the things that we're working on now.
Yeah, and maybe let's all add a little bit. Rune, I captured, and I think that comment is similar to the one from earlier today. So I've captured a note that, for future meetings, we need to have dialogue on how we, share that information. And you all said the comment regarding verification. So we'll put that as an action item for us to follow up on.
Well, and these metrics are important in having dialogue between the risk analyzer and the community, so they have some understanding of, when I talk about this, it means these things here, and then they can look to see if there are some omissions. So if there's something from the community's perspective that should be on the list, that isn't on the list, you can at least have that dialogue and maybe get those things on and make sure that these scenarios capture those elements.
Yeah, and I think, as part of this process, we brought in the independent consulting board and brought in some very significant expertise as part of that board as a way to have a group that's also looking, very detailed and thoroughly at the work we're doing. So that, is another step in that.
Right, but feel free to use the Ad Hoc Group because we have our fingers in the community as an additional resource. So, we can give you as much information and stuff to put together the stuff so it's as comprehensive as possible. So let us help you. Right? There may be instances where some, like at the jail, the generator went out and there was some question about duration of backup power. If we don't see that on the list, but that was something that happened, that could be a contribution that we can make back to the evaluation.
Yeah, appreciate that.
But we won't know that unless we see what's on the list and what's not on the list.
And I think the other thing that comes into some of what we're talking about is sort of this this gap between what's technically correct in the engineering world and what makes sense to the common person, right? I'll give an example. When the former interim director testified before our committee and said the emergency spillway worked. It worked as it was designed, right? And in his mind, he's saying, well, it worked as it was designed. It's supposed to go over the hillside, and it did go over the hillside, and that's, but to everybody else in the world that's affected by this, no, it didn't work because we had huge erosion and we almost lost it, or had very high possibility of losing it, and could have had a 30-foot wall of water coming at us, right? So he was thinking technically, right? That, yeah, it worked, and as you just described, FERC says, well, this isn't an uncontrolled release, because technically it's not, right? But I think to everybody else, like, no, it's uncontrolled because you can't control how much water is coming over the emergency spillway, right? That you can control how much you're sending out of the FCO, right? But you can't control when you, right now, when the emergency spillway gets activated, it's whatever's coming over the top of that thing, right? I mean, whatever's coming in is going out, right?
Right, but that generally happens once the control spillway, the gated spillway, its capacity is exceeded. So up until that point, you still have the capacity to act with the radial gates, which is what happened in 2017, is when they saw the erosion, they opened up the gates further and took more water down the damaged FCO. So within hours after they saw that large erosion, there was no more flow going over the emergency spillway.
Well, right, but you see what I'm saying, right, Les?
Right.
Like, what FERC might have defined as not an uncontrolled event, right? Technically, to everybody else in the world, is an uncontrolled event when the emergency spillway got activated.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying about the FCO. And by the way, that was a very delayed decision to finally fire that thing up. And so, I mean, I don't want to get down in the weeds on that, but it was a very delayed decision that, you know, I think some could argue could have happened earlier in time. But bottom line, it was during that period of time when we didn't fire it up, it was an uncontrolled flow over the hillside, right?
So every flood that passes through a dam.
Les, would you have Bruce the way
There is only one way to avoid having, by your definition, uncontrolled releases. And that's to have a dam that's large enough to store the entire flood. Because otherwise, whatever is coming in has to be passed. And it's either going to get passed over the emergency spillway, through the outlets, through the FCO, or over the top of the dam. And that's just physics.
Well, right, but I'm just saying, in most cases that we've experienced,
Yeah.
that flow gets metered out using the FCO. That's what happens, right? And in I think everybody's mind, the common person mind, that's what we call a controlled
For a
release.
relatively small event. In terms of the events that are possible.
Not a relatively small event. I mean, we went through 86.
Yeah.
And we went through 97, which were huge events, and it was a metered flow out of that FCO.
So
we never used the emergency spillway.
Right. But even what you're considering to be huge events are relatively small compared to what the Feather River is capable of producing.
Oh, we all know that, man. Like, we're more than familiar with that fact. But be real, right? Like, people died in 97, right? So I don't want to underscore, like, yeah, that wasn't the PMF, right? I mean, we've never experienced that.
So maybe another way.
But it's still a huge amount of water that people expect that, hey, we're going to meter that flow, right? And as opposed to, hey, we're just going to let whatever comes in just flow right down the river, right? Like, maybe that's just the common distinction that we got to get outside of the engineer's box on when you're trying to communicate to the community what is acceptable and not acceptable risk, right?
Yeah, so in 2017 was a record discharge for the season. So what flowed into the reservoir and out the reservoir was over 5 million acre feet. That's more than twice as much in 97. So it's never flowed that much before.
Right, but we got to be clear, like, peak flow was like a fraction of what it was in 97.
Well,
and that's a difference when we're talking about flood control.
So
yes, you passed a lot of water in 17. I know that. But it was also like over a much longer period of time.
Right.
Flood is about how much has come in at a moment in time, a snapshot in time.
Right. So in 97, the peak discharge was 160,000 CFS. So the peak discharge in 2017 was 100,000.
Right.
And almost all of that was on the FCO, only a tiny amount was on the emergency spillway. So there's only 12,000 at most going over the emergency spillway while they were discharging 55 to 80,000 on the FCO.
But what if you would have had a 97 event while this all was going on? What would that have been like?
Well, what you would have had to do is open the FCO up, back up to 160 again, if it was the same exact event. And in looking at it today of how well it held up, even badly damaged with 100, it would probably have held up for the 160. I think the point about uncontrolled versus, controlled releases is that if water's going over the emergency spillway, it's meant to go over the emergency spillway for high flows. And that's not an uncontrolled release. What would be an uncontrolled release is if the monolith broke and failed and swept away, it's getting a much larger flow than it should be because you've got a gap in the monoliths. That's would be an uncontrolled. That didn't happen. That's why we put all this, almost $300 million of armoring in to keep that from happening in the future.
Right, which leads to another question of, seems like there's a lot of discussion, well, we never want to use that again. Well, why would we spend, like you said, $250 million if we're never going to use it again? And if we're going to...
Because we might have to. We may not want to, but we might have to.
And why would we call it an auxiliary spillway if it's really an emergency spillway that's never to be used? And, see, these are kind of things that... Getting to my first point, which is, I know there's this technical engineer, FERC, whatever, but none of that makes sense to
some of that
on the ground.
I think we all recognize some of it's hard to communicate.
And that's where we have to figure out
engineering
how to do
terms
that.
and engineering lingo and history to the general public.
Right.
And that is something we all struggle with.
Well, stories and storytelling and kind of these descriptive scenarios are a good start. And maybe instead of talking about uncontrolled flows, you can have flow ranges, right? The emergency spillway, which I presume would be like an end of the world scenario, or I don't know when that thing would be used, but it'd be nice to get some clarification on that. But if you kind of bracket, this spillway is rated to deal with flows between here and here, then at least the public has an understanding, as opposed to kind of vague and ambiguous terms like uncontrolled release that got us, down this avenue. So I think that's another area of opportunities to better communicate, put bounds on things and try to get it down to a story so that it kind of makes sense for the general community. And then we can have more structured discussions about, I like that range, I don't like that range, I like when you open it, I don't like when you open it. But if we have it too abstract, then it's difficult to have engaged conversations. I hear reference to FERC a lot, and I'll point everyone back to the water code. In the water code, there's a little thing that says we're going to be the world leaders on dam safety. So I think we can look to FERC in terms of guidance, but that's not a ceiling for us. That's not the limit of what we can do. We can go above and beyond. So just keep that in the back.
I think that's what he's saying he's doing. I think that's what they're saying.
I would say that, first of all, while the Congress mandated a level 2, this is probably like a level 3 on steroids. And then what the CNA is doing is unprecedented. And no other, there might be some portions of reclamation or the Corps have done it on their dams, but nobody else has done that in the United States. So it's really an unprecedented level of effort. The department is investing just tremendous amounts of money in this, just in these studies. And I think one of the comments is that the IRB has said in their report is there's nothing been to a higher level ever done before. And it's never ever been done by a FERC mandated process. So we take your point about, FERC is the floor, dam safety requirements are the floor. We took that to heart. We're going way beyond that in our considerations.
So, and definitely, we see the outlines of the work. We're excited to see the actual work. But on that notion, and this was one of our earlier questions, because the IFT did go through the process of essentially saying the PFMA process is flawed and should be updated. So, I mean, it would be great as you're doing all this great, wonderful work and discovering and learning and expanding to, at the end of this process, maybe in line with the report that's coming out in May, to just have an outline document or something that illustrates, you know, here's where we started, and then here are the gaps that we filled or expanded upon or whatever, so that there's some sort of documentation at the end of the process that kind of outlines where we are today and all of the beneficial things that have been added to the process. We were kind of hoping to talk about that at the beginning before you started the work, so if there were suggestions or, hey, can you also add this in, we would have that. But I think at a minimum, at the end of the process, kind of outlining and documenting that would be very beneficial for the public.
And I think we're going to incorporate that in our final report. We're going to have a report that will be released to the public to cover many of these things. It will probably include the fact that the independent forensic team recommended something, don't hold me to the exact number, of 16 or 18 specific recommendations to improve the Part 12 process, PFMA process, and we're adopting them. And both the Level 2 and the CNAs have adopted those. And we can document how we've documented those, or implemented those.
Hey Les, before you move on, maybe I can just add a comment. I think this has been very good discussion for us, and we appreciate that as we're presenting our work, I think this is good to hear that we're presenting very technical work, and it'll be good for us to ensure in future meetings we're also having a little more of a general discussion and sharing kind of some of the basic information as well, as I think we heard that would be helpful besides just the technical nuts and bolts of what we're doing.
Well, that's what our whole process here that's going to be ongoing will achieve. We will be dealing with a lot of technical stuff too, but we're getting some real practical feedback too from people who are living this. That's what's so important about what process we put in place here.
Ted, I think you can tell that the ad hoc committee is rather anxious to ask questions and get answers, as we've interrupted Dr. Harder here repeatedly.
Right.
Because we're hungry for information. I certainly have some questions at the conclusion of his presentation, because you know they may be answered before he finishes. He's not done yet, but you know these are short sessions. We've skipped 3 months, and we are hungry for information, and you can tell that. I'll just make that observation.
Quick comment. When me and Ron and Rob sat down in Joel's office to formulate the guidelines for the CNN process, I walked away feeling that the ad hoc meetings would be a redacted version of the IRB meeting. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think that you have your very technical, very expansive information when you meet with the IRB, yet when we have our meeting, it's like you're walking us through Risk 101 and leaving out all the fine details that our downstream citizens want to know. The other thing that happens in our agenda is that we have 101 for 2.5 hours, and then we're given the half hour to give you the public perspective. I think the public wants a lot more than just 30 minutes every 3 months in order to give you feedback, and somehow we need to expand upon that.
Well, I'll move away from 101.
Well,
anyway,
Matt, we
I
can
just wanted-
achieve that. We'll be fastidiously paying attention to that as we proceed.
We are trying to explain how we have gone beyond just the ultimate failure to look at other failure states and how we're considering other consequences other than just life loss. So, as I said, this is the matrix for the example I showed for regulatory compliance. We have another matrix for water delivery impacts. We have another matrix for other state water project purposes, power, recreation, environmental enhancement. And we have one for financial impact, both direct and indirect. So for each PFM, potential failure mode, we end up having an ultimate failure state, a heavy damage state, a light damage, and perhaps a negligible damage. So each PFM actually has 3 or 4 scenarios. And instead of just looking at life loss, we also look at regulatory compliance, water delivery impacts, other state water project purposes, and financial impacts. So there's a lot going on in just each PFM. Typically, what the level 2 has currently been focused on is principally on life loss and financial impacts they're starting to get into. And for some of the PFMs, they're also looking at intermediate failure states as well, but they have not finished that yet. So we considered, as Bruce said, we considered 372 PFMs, and we carried forward 127. We dropped 245. So your question is, why did we drop 245? Well, some of them were duplicates of each other. So in the brainstorming session, somebody said, well, I think the dam could fail by internal erosion in the upper 40 feet. Somebody else said, I think the dam could fail by internal erosion in the upper 40 feet. And somebody else said the same thing. So we have 3 of the same thing. So we consolidated it into 1. So that eliminates 2 of them. Some of them were eliminated because with the estimates of probability of failure were so remote, it was like not 1 in 10 million, but 1 in a trillion. So it was so remote, it was dropped. The level 2 process also dropped about half of theirs for that reason as well. We end up with 127 PFMs. Every PFM has 3 to 4 scenarios, so we end up with 407 scenarios. Each scenario has 5 consequences to evaluate, so there's over 2,000 evaluations being done. So, give you another example of the potential failure mode development. This involves an example involving the Palermo Canal and its possible impacts of inducing a landslide that would affect the switchyard for Hyatt. So looking at the dam here, down below by the control center, there's a large switchyard for the power plant. Above it, on the left above it, is the Palermo Tunnel, which discharges into the Palermo Canal. It's a canal that's excavated in the rock here. It is shotcrete lined, but is not watertight and does leak a bit. And so this scenario is basically associated with the leakage, inducing water pressure in this hillside that then slumps and affects the switchyard. So in the development, for the ultimate failure state, water leaks from Palermo Canal, slope materials retain water, creating high pore pressures, loss of shear strength. Results in a large landslide. It's triggered below the canal. A large amount of landslide debris flows about 200 feet and completely buries the switchyard. The impacts is Hyatt, the switchyard and Hyatt are out for 6 to 12 months. There's not a large potential for loss of life there, but it is an important financial impact. An intermediate heavy damage is you have the same thing, but it's not as large. It's a moderate landslide. It only partially buries the switchyard, impacts it for 4 weeks. A light damage is you do have a small landslide, but it doesn't even make it to the switchyard, so it's no impact. And the negligible is you don't even have a landslide, you just have wet spots. So you can have, for the ultimate failure state, where you have the whole hillside coming down, burying the switchyard, you have the heavy damage where you get a good part of the hillside, but it only affects part of the switchyard. And you have light damage where you have part of the hillside, coming down, but not very much, and none of it gets to the switchyard, so that's almost negligible. And so those are rated. So the ultimate failure state, which buries the entire landslide, there is a possibility of loss of life. there might be a worker nearby. So there possibly one life loss. But for the others, it's no life loss, but there's potential for injuries. And then on financial impacts, you have relatively major financial impacts, intermediate, low, and negligible. And we do that rate that for all of the 5 consequences for each scenario, all 407 scenarios. All right, so comparisons of likelihood. So we have 127 we've developed out of 372. So there's basically 9 related to the emergency spillway, about 37 for the FCO, 31 for the outlets, and 50 for the 3 embankments. So wanted to compare it to the level 2. We benefited by having their notes for some of them. But there were some challenges in comparing our results with the level 2. First off, their notes represent preliminary draft notes. They're not final and they're not complete. And some of the information is missing. No PFMs have currently been performed for the emergency spillway or the FCO chute by the level 2. Actually, that's now happened. It happened last week, but their notes are not yet available. So we can't make any comparisons with the emergency spillway or this FCO chute. Some of their evaluations by level 2, the ratings were so low as negligible. They were not fully developed. Some of our ratings were the lowest rating we gave is remote, which is less than 1 in 10 million. In actuality, some of our estimates were so low they would be less than 100 million, less than a billion. Many PFMs developed by us, CNA, and level 2 were similar but not exactly the same, and not carried to the same point in failure, so there were some differences. And some of the level 2 estimates, their likelihoods or probabilities ranged 2 to 4 orders of magnitude, whereas our task teams were instructed to just pick 1. So that did provide some challenges. Some of the other challenges is that the level 2 have not finished their likelihood estimates, probability estimates for many of the features that involve mechanical and electrical equipment. So there's a lot of that involving the headworks. We just talked about power, for instance, about the gate raising. And there's a lot more of them in the outlets associated with the power plant. So we don't have as many to compare to that's been finished yet by the level 2. What the teams did do is they were able to compare 71 PFMs, and they compared the probabilities, because not all the consequences involving life loss are out yet. And so of the 71 that we could compare, 40 were basically the same estimate, the same likelihood, the same order of magnitude. So 40 of them were basically the same. Another 26 was 1 box away, 1 order of magnitude away. If you add these together, that's 66 out of 71. That's 93% that are either right on or only 1 box away. We think that's pretty good, actually. And as Bruce said, there was not a bias, a constant bias. For instance, we weren't always higher than the level 2, and the level 2 wasn't always higher than us. The differences were spread out both high and low. We do have some differences that are 2 or 3 orders of magnitude different, and our teams are tasked to reconcile those differences and understand why they're different and possibly modify our numbers. These are what we compare right now. In a month or 2, we'll have more to compare as the level 2 finishes their process and their notes. And we'll see how well we go. But we are committed to reconciling those differences and making sure that we haven't missed anything. So preliminary results to date. I have none to share with you. Okay? And the reason for that is we're still reviewing them for consistency. So I can give you a high level of where they're ending up. Of these 127 and 407 scenarios, the vast majority of them have very low risk, which is, That's what was intended by the design of these facilities. So they plot in the lower left deep into the green. We have a couple of dozen or so that are in the middle zone, that amber zone, and we have some on the edge of the red. So we're going to be reviewing it. We're in the process of doing a consistency review across task teams now to make sure that each team is doing it consistently, and each team not only is consistent within itself, but also consistent across other teams. And so our next steps is the internal review of the PFM risk estimates for consistency within and across task teams, reconcile the remaining significant differences between CNA and level 2, and we have already been developing risk reduction measures as we've talked about, and Bruce gave some examples, and we're going to continue with that. I can't imagine you have any questions, but.
I got a couple. Is anybody out there in a physical way core drilling or die testing or giving you, the current status of the dam, core of the dam? Like you mentioned the little tunnel over there. Has anybody ever die tested that to see if that might be the cause of our green spots? Or any physical work going on other than banging with chains and hammers?
Well, one of the things about
X-ray in the gates.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, your information seems to be all based on, what you're telling me is it's based on somebody gave you that information, DWR give you that information?
Most of the information is from DWR.
So there's a flaw here. There's a major flaw. There's no forensic evidence of what you're depending on is real.
Well, I think, I don't want to speak too much for DWR, but there have been testing done. The radio gates are climb inspected. They were climb inspected quite a bit during the 2017 event, and they've been climb inspected since then. They've been,
We're here as the public, and I'm going to tell you how it is. An old man came into my office years ago, and he told me if they ever use an emergency spillway, it's made to erode away and fall over. This is the same brain trust that used it. And so we don't depend on what they say. We don't trust them. And I'm telling you, if you're dependent on them, it's not going to be trusted by the public. The other thing, just common sense, it may be a FERC definition that using an emergency spillway is not a failure, but to this guy and every one of my constituents below this dam, that's an uncontrolled release. It affects their life, their livelihood. It changes everything. So you can't rely on that. I think the Assemblyman was trying to get there. You cannot do that. And I have other comments about operations. That's my comments.
I said I had some questions unless you wanted to respond.
well, I do think, there was a question earlier about checking the specifications and so on. So just for the repair that we've done over the last 2 years. So each of the design specifications and each of the drawings were reviewed in detail by the California Division of Safety Dams at the state level and by FARC. And they provided back hundreds of comments that the design team incorporated and modified the design. So they have been looked at by independent experts already. In addition, the Spillway Recovery Team Consulting Board also reviewed the designs. During construction, the state had inspectors out there every day. FERC had inspectors out there every day. And before any concrete was placed over the replacement spillway, a state dam safety inspector had to sign off that the foundation was adequate, and a FERC dam safety inspector had to sign off that it was adequate. So there's a tremendous amount of independent oversight. And in addition to the Spillway Review Board, we now have the FERC 5-year independent consultant team doing an independent inspection and review. We have this potential failure mode process by the level 2. We have the CNA process with another independent board, the independent review board. So there's a tremendous amount of scrutiny, review by experts representing the public to ensure public safety on these things. With regard to testing, we have recently drilled a lot of holes on both on the emergency spillway and the control spillway for the design and to ensure performance. And we have and I think Steve Aragon touched on the emergency spillway, we have relief holes for drainage, but they also tell us where groundwater is. So we have a very detailed map of groundwater on that hillside. For being able to inspect drains, the new drains, each of them have individual cleanouts, and each of them permits the ability to send an ROV in there for a visual inspection. But nobody else has done that. So we have the tremendous ability to verify the performance over time.
I'm sorry, if you misconstrued my comments. They're not about the current new construction that we know that you looked over that very well, and we had visits there. You could see just common sense. What was going on was done well. I put it to you, the same people that built the spillway built the entire dam. And that's the problem with the public's trust. We want an independent physical inspection of the dam, not just looking over data that you're receiving from DWR. I understand you're an engineer and we think different. You know, I'm just 8th grade educated bumpkin, you know. But we're not getting that, and that's where the people they're worried.
Well, the dam is physically inspected by the Division of Safety of Dams and outside
They're the
agencies.
same people who inspected the spillway.
Okay.
Over and over.
Well, it's still inspected by Safety of Dams annually, FERC annually, and the FERC requires an independent consultant, in this case Dr. Mejia, Dr. Bowles, and Drew Kennedy, to do a physical independent inspection of the facilities as well, and to review all the performance data. As far as drilling new holes in it, we're actually going to be drilling new holes for the installation of piezometers, and I'll be talking about that later in this program.
Well, that would be good.
That we brought up for a long time, and yeah, I'm glad to hear that that's happening. But, you know, let me tackle this a little bit different way, because I think we all understand and fully and very much appreciate is that there is a lot of oversight. There is a lot of other people looking at this, and maybe especially with the new construction, as Mr. Connolly pointed out. But I'll note, like the IFC, the review board pointed out, that with regard to the Parish Saddle Dam, there's still a lot of uncertainty. You know, there is still a lot of uncertainty. So how do we try and remove that uncertainty as to that embankment? Embankments are something that we do have some uncertainty about, right? And so trying to get more certainty. In the PFMA process is important. And it's also something that the forensic team was very critical of, right? And I'll point out just two things that they point out, and I want to hear from you how we're kind of changing that, right? Number one is they did point out normalization of deviance. And this is what I was getting at with saying it's solid rock. This is direct from their report. There was cutting and pasting of accurate geological descriptions from previous reports, inaccurate characterization of sound rock conditions over the entire areas of the spillways was perpetuated by truncating earlier, more complete descriptions. For instance, quote, the amphibolite bedrock has been described as sound hard rock. However, introductory words, where unweathered, was omitted. And so that was a normalization of deviance that crept into the process and negatively affected the ability to do a good PFMA, right? They also pointed out that there's a groupthink problem, you know, that can compromise judgment and decision-making of the PFMA team. Examples: individuals perceived as experts by members of a group can highly influence the whole decision-making group. Due to reputational or business considerations, individuals recognized as being experts may drift into confidently presenting opinions on topics outside their core expertise. Individuals who speak first on a topic tend to have a disproportionately large influence on the opinions and decisions which the group ultimately reaches. Maybe I'm a prime example of that. But these are different things. Here's another important one. The number of DWR personnel was overwhelming to some of the external participants. The DWR personnel were overrepresented in the PFM voting process. And I know that, you put out all the people who are involved in this, and there's a pretty big team of DWR, and there's a pretty big group of people from HDR, which is a very primary contractor of DWR. So is that an issue? What are we doing to address some of those considerations that were clearly brought up by the forensic team?
Right.
And how you do a PFMA?
And so if we look back at who's participating in the level 2 risk analysis, it's a huge number of people who are independent evaluators. These people were nominated by the U.S. Society on Dams, and then they were contracted through DWR. They represent a wide range of expertise, from geotechnical to structural to geology to seismology to hydraulics, construction. They're the ones making the independent evaluation. There's no DWR person making the independent evaluation for the level 2. They're kept out of that.
They're not in the voting process on that?
They are part of the discussion, and typically what happens is that they do a round of estimates or voting or estimating the level of likelihood of failure and consequences by the independent evaluators. After that is done first, the DWR people are asked what their opinions are, and that's looked at and discussed. But after the evaluators did their first round, the evaluators then have the opportunity to change their votes or estimates if they heard something that resonated with them from the DWR, but they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, it's only their estimates that count. No DWR person's vote is counted in the independent evaluation.
And that's the level 2, right?
Yes.
But you might want to explain, a lot of those level 2 estimators are labeled as HDR. That's not where their experience came from.
Right, so.
Well, do they work for HDR?
Well, a lot of the facilitators are HDR.
Right, and I'm not
But-
trying to castigate
Yeah.
HDR at all. I'm just saying, these things were brought up as like, hey, if you have a lot of group coming from the same area, and even where there might be, potential conflicts, business interests, other things, right, that there could be, that you want to try and be on guard against that,
Right,
right?
and I think DWR has strived to maintain as much independence as it can by having multiple estimators from all sorts of companies and agencies. A lot of the consequences that are estimates that were developed are done by Jason Needham of Corps' Risk Management Center. We have, during this process, during the level 2 process, the oversight by FERC and by Eric Halpman and Steve Townsley. Every day they would review the process and discuss how to modify it and adjust it. So there was, basically real-time oversight by outside people that were invited and actually contracted and paid to do this.
That's good.
Would it be safe to say that 65% of the people on the level 2 had at one point worked for DWR or hope to work for them in the future? I didn't bring my paperwork with me, but doing the math on it is a very high percent of people.
I don't know the answer to that. That seems high to me.
What you're sensing here is that we don't want to leave any rock unturned because of lack of trust. And although we have the utmost respect for the amount of expertise that's gone into the repair work, that's gone into some of the research here, there's still big doubt about trust with the public and culture and lack of sharing information. And that's where a lot of these questions are rooting from. So somehow we need to really work on building that trust. We're about to hear from John, who's going to explain forecast-based fire road. And if I can't get an answer out of him from the previous meeting on, can't you show us where the calculations are on how you operate the dam during the old water control manual, how am I going to go back to my constituents and sell him on a forecast base that's got twice as many variables that they're not sharing with us on how they're operating their flood control manual? When we ask for information, we would like to be able to have the confidence. We had a golden opportunity this last spring as the reservoir was filling. We had 160% snowpack up there. And all I was hearing around town was, damn DWR, they're holding too much water, look at all that snow. And I sit on this committee and I couldn't defend you because you don't share the information with us. I could not defend you and say, well, wait a minute, they're following guidelines and the guideline accounts for snow. Oh no, it counts for wetness. Oh, we need better sharing. We need to build the trust so that we can be spokesmen and bring the public and DWR a lot closer together.
Well, I'm sure DWR wants to do that, so I would leave it, maybe Ted, you can address this about ways to improve the process.
And I have a mic, Les, thank you. Did just want to maybe make a general statement, and Les said, indicated it earlier in his presentation, but you know, the work we've done on this level 2 process and the comprehensive needs assessment process has been the most comprehensive ever done in the United States. We've pulled in just a huge team and structured the team with thought of how do we keep it independent, but ensure we have the people knowledgeable in DWR that can provide the independent team the information they need to make their analysis. So we really, you know, took the findings of the forensic team to heart. We're going above and beyond in this effort, and we're taking the same approach with the comprehensive needs assessment, the way we're integrating the two. Appreciate the comments about can we do more to communicate better, and we're going to work on that as well, Matt. So thank you. So
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't think anybody here is saying it's not a comprehensive, and this isn't the most comprehensive review ever done, right? I don't think anybody's really arguing that. What Les told us though, Matt, is, hey, there is these independent experts that are dam safety experts who are the ones that are making that final decision in the level 2 analysis, right? When they're doing the PFMA, is that correct?
Yes.
And so that's where I think that's really important to hear that, because I think both of what we were saying is, hey, there's a lot of reliance on, we just want to make sure that groupthink issue doesn't resurface itself again. And I think that's important that you have, you know, especially in the final voting process, that it's not a majority DWR or one group, right, that's able to make that final decision, that there's independent, outside, external folks making those determinations. And that, it sounds like that's what we have. So
That's been the objective, and I think we're carrying it out.
now, CNA, you pointed out that the schedules have gotten off track, and I think it is important because CNA is the one that identifies the mitigation, right, for risks.
And evaluate.
Have we thought about maybe, I mean, are we really under the gun to have to do this by May? I mean, if we really wanted to coordinate with the level 2, maybe we do consider taking the CNA out a little bit so that it can match, you know, whatever does come out of the level 2 analysis, which has been delayed, and also identify what are the appropriate mitigation measures, right? Because it sounds like the level 2 isn't going to do that. The CNA is going to.
That's not their mission.
Right.
Their
So I've really
mission
thought
is-
about just like maybe extending out CNA as well.
I think one of the things, you know, we've delayed the CNA already, and so we've already delayed it about 9 months, so from the original schedule. We would like to complete it on time.
What's the negative of going longer? I mean,
Well, but I think to meet the objective is we're going to meet that objective of being consistent with the level 2. At the end of the day, whatever their results are, we're going to be maybe not exactly the same, but we're going to be very close to it. And so I think that addresses, you know, the concept is that you have, and Bruce mentioned before, this is an unprecedented level of effort to do a risk analysis, and we're doing 2 of them. And so it's the Corps and the federal government has done these duplicate processes where it does basically a quality assurance check.
We only did it one time for one dam, where the result was, the risk was so high that we couldn't believe it. And we actually ended up finding out that that dam was actively failing. It just hadn't exhibited evidence of it on the surface.
Yeah, but I think the point is this you have 2 parallel efforts checking each other, and you know each of them individually is unprecedented. Together, it's you know remotely, grandly unprecedented.
Can I just make a quick observation? Can you go back to the slide that had the comparison between the 2 teams?
Okay.
So, but back to what the Assemblyman was saying, this is actually very interesting, and I commend the group for doing this, having 2 separate processes, identifying where there's agreement, and then focusing on the areas where there are differences of opinion or interpretation or whatever. Those are probably going to be your likely problem areas because there's a difference in base assumptions, right? They assume this, they assume this. So those would be the areas to investigate. So if I were walking through the risk analysis process, I'd be interested in the outliers. Why are you thinking this and this other person's thinking that? So in terms of a rigorous evaluation of base assumptions and parameters and all that stuff, I think this compare and contrast is actually a great benefit to your study.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like potentially a missed opportunity if you now decouple them, because you're not getting that intelligence of what this team thought relative to that team. And what Bruce mentioned earlier is where you have things that you get a weird result, right? They went out and dug it up and looked at it. You know, building that into this process and communicating that to the public is helpful, because then we see that it's not just groupthink, right? But we came across these obstacles in this issue, and we looked at it, and whatever you need to do to shield that. But I think that's a beneficial process, and it gives you a far more robust answer at the end of the day. The things that you know well aren't going to be a problem. It's the stuff that you don't know is a problem that you need to be alert for. And again, kind of going back to those parameters, if you have an expected range, and everyone kind of knows what that range is, and you see that you're starting to deviate outside of that, that perks up the interest levels, and people start asking questions, and you can get out in front of it. So you can use those as leading indicators to help you in the process. And last spring, you had the temporary interim reservoir control thing or whatever, right? You came up with water stage versus time, what the allowable ranges were. And you guys actually exceeded your own management level. There was more water in the reservoir when they were supposed to be based on your operational manual. And there was a lot of buzz in the community, like, hey, what's going on here? Water level is supposed to be at 800, we're at 805, 807, 809. So that generated some anxiety. But I think that's an example of an indicator that the community can use to get feedback on trust, right? You said you were going to do this, I'm seeing this thing over there. And I would imagine through this entire process, maybe there are 10,000 parameters you're looking at. If we could find 10 that you could disseminate to the public, that they can use as kind of a check for themselves, like, hey, they said this, and can I check to see what's actually happening? That would help you build trust. And I think this group can help you. I think that's an opportunity for you coming out of this process, is to kind of extract some of those, we'll call them benign indicators, right, that the public can use to kind of gauge for themselves, hey, they said this, I'm seeing that, I see trust. So I think that's an opportunity that we can explore if these meetings continue.
Yeah, Rune, really appreciate your comment about having the 2 processes, the CNA risk and the level 2. We really saw that also as a benefit, that it just adds an additional level of rigor to what we're doing and does provide that opportunity, as Les talked about, for us now to have the 2 teams cross-check to get to the best solution. So agree with you on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add my concurrence with your statement about, particularly about checking the outliers, and that is going to be important. And one of the assignments our task teams have is to document if they remain significantly different, they justify that. So your comment's very right on.
That's good. That's good. Ron, I know you've been.
I'm also looking at the agenda. We have a half hour left with an hour's worth of presentations in front of us.
Yeah.
So I certainly have not only questions of Dr. Harder, but more general questions. But, you know, I'm calling on you to do some agenda management here. What are we going to do with the time remaining?
Well, I think what I'd like to do is, you know, I understand that. I don't think that anything in here that we've had was a wasted thing, right? Like, there's a lot of information, and I think this is exactly what we should be doing, is having this back and forth and, you know, discussion. So I think what I might propose is, hey, can we try and get maybe another meeting together where we can go into these other presentations and have some a little bit more time?
And timely, very, very soon, and giving plenty of time. I've got a problem because I'm going to have to leave in about 20, 30 minutes.
So I know we have the screening criteria, the piezometer and the FIRO effort. I'm wondering if maybe we just do the piezometer presentation here today, and then we can schedule another meeting to talk about FIRO and screening. You think that's okay?
And then get our questions in.
Sure. And then we can, you know, get into that a little bit more in depth, because it does deserve more time, absolutely. You know, and but I don't think it's a function of anybody, you know, it's just we've gotten into, the PFMA is very, I mean, to me, very seriously important to the whole thing, you know. So if we're okay with that, I will work with Ted to schedule another meeting where we go into those two issues specifically. Is that all right? And then we'll do the piezometer presentation and have more questions. Now, do you want to go into some things right now on PFMA stuff, or what were you thinking?
Well, my questions went to CNA stuff.
Okay.
Kind of the scope of the CNA. Yeah, I think it's more than just dam safety. It's also about floodwater management. And so that was a question I had. And also the continued use by the department and everyone here of the term emergency spillway, which I believe FERC has ordered DWR to now classify as an auxiliary spillway. And that has some consequences, the classification under the spillway, FERC's engineering guidelines. So those are kinds of questions that are on my mind for Dr. Harder's presentation. I have other questions that go to the scope of the CNA.
Mm-hmm. So those two you just outlined are for Les?
Well, for Dr. Harder, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so one I heard was, hey, should this be looking at the flood component as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, in our
Which
conversation,
I think the review board brought up, hey, we should be doing total, what was it, total? You called it total?
Total consequence.
Total consequence, which includes flooding.
Incremental.
Right? And
right. There are
is that-
consequences to these physical structures that are being looked at from the perspective of spillway adequacy or, you know, reliability of operations to floodwater management, and they cascade into and have mutual feedbacks with
Right.
what I believe is a CNA task, which is to provide recommendations for a new flood manual or interim flood manuals or a series of flood manuals. And so those are, I think, CNA tasks. I hope that Dr. Harder didn't mean to say that really the CNA was only looking at kind of the traditional dam safety issues that are covered in FERC's dam safety program. I mean, these are, floodwater management is also damned important to the Feather River Basin people, and I would hope to DWR and DWR's contractors.
Right.
Well, there is one of the consequence categories is flexibility and reliability, water delivery, which I think gets to kind of what you're talking about. And here's where, if there was more detail on kind of what these metrics and demarcations are, it might help provide some clarity
Right.
on where the future thinking is. On
Maybe
some of
let
this.
Les respond to that. I mean, as someone who's been very involved with flood control and
Yes.
you know, go ahead, Les. Yeah.
Les, does it make sense for me to maybe make some general comments and you add, or vice versa?
I will let you make as many comments.
So heard maybe two things, Ron, just to simplify it, but in regards to the naming of the emergency spillway, we're using the name of the structure. We recognize that FERC has made, has informed us of that they view the facility as it functions in an auxiliary spillway way. We intend, and the CNA is really, I think it's task 2 or 3, the one focused on the spillway, is really intended to address what's the long-term need for the spillway facilities. So that's integrated as part of this effort, is the assessment of the spillways as a whole, what future things may be needed as part of the spillway functionality for the Oroville Dam.
Let me just argue that to the extent that FERC has said that really you should consider this to be an auxiliary spillway, that beginning to use that term is going to help clarify for the department in the future and now what the spillway is intended to do, and a more proper name is I think a useful thing to begin to say, particularly since FERC's your regulator and they've told you what it is.
Yeah, so as we develop the measures and in future meetings with this group, share those measures, that'll be part of the
In the context of it being an auxiliary spillway.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Yeah, and then
What is, I mean, I guess maybe the question is, what is DWR's intent? Is DWR's intent to treat this as an emergency spillway that never gets used only in emergency situations? Or is it actually an auxiliary spillway which kind of envisions a more functional use that's more frequently used, right?
For example, the water control manual for 2019 to 2020, is that going to be the same as last year, where we leave the reservoir down an extra 150,000 feet so we don't surcharge the emergency spillway in lack of Marysville Dam?
Right, well, that's another question,
No, it's
right?
the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to the flood control manual.
You can tell, Ted, you can tell, we got a lot of questions.
Right.
yeah, so I think
I'm just asking what their intent is, or are you just letting this process, I mean, what is your intent
well,
with regard to that? Yeah.
yeah, so I think future meetings will have an opportunity to talk more specifics regarding the spillway task. But there's the standard project flood that you design features to, then the probable maximum flood. And so we really need to look at both of those events and then, what features are needed to handle both. And so our intention is that we're going to have facilities to address both of those events. But we need to go through the process to identify what are, the appropriate structures that would handle those two events. So
right.
I think that's a subsequent step in the process. It'd be a little premature for me to
Right. Right, but as that goes along, how that gets defined, I think that's something you brought up a lot is, hey, how do you define the PMF, right? And how do you define the standard
Well, apparently we have a new PMF as opposed to old PMFs.
There has been new PMF stated, I guess.
So
in some of these
we need a
documents,
briefing on that too, because obviously it makes a difference to, your spillway design, and it may cascade into your flood operations, as in non-dam safety operations, but flood operations. So those are the kinds of questions that still are important to this community, and hopefully the department. And we're anxious to hear your thinking, and that's why we're perhaps behind on our agenda. We have a lot of important questions, and we need answers.
So
Yeah,
may I add just one thing?
Yeah, please do.
With regard to the name auxiliary and emergency, there's an implication if you call it auxiliary as opposed to emergency, it's actually a spillway that's used more often. And there's also an implication that maybe you should, if it's used more often, the expectation is it doesn't suffer as much damage when it is used.
That is what's in FERC's engineering guidelines.
Right. And
That's
so you were commenting about trying to get in the right mindset of expectations, I think, by DWR and others.
Correct.
On that. And what I would offer up is the process we're going through with the CNA and the level 2 is that we consider a range of flows that might be possible, from very small flows on the emergency spillway that might have a recurrence interval of like once every 500 years, to something that's a couple thousand years, to a 20,000 and 40. So we look at the full range of flows and we try and estimate how it will perform for those flows and the consequences of those flows, and along with their likelihood, and judge whether or not we think, those are acceptable or not. And if they're not acceptable, what potential measures could be done to reduce those consequences or risks. And what I would say is that it doesn't matter what we call it, this process is over and above that, because we're going to have fixed in DWR's mind and outside people, a level of risk for this range of flows, for a range of earthquakes, for a range of normal operating, and so on. So I actually think, in my mind, it doesn't matter what we call it, we're already going through a process that's going to provide a lot more information than whatever a name says.
And I'm pleased to hear that the Independent Review Board is pleased to see that there's progress being made, and that's pleasing. But still, we're interested in getting some answers. And we recognize that that with the existing flood manual, the auxiliary spillway has multiple purposes and could experience multiple ranges of flows, and some of those are classic dam safety purposes, and some of them are part of flood management purposes. And so we're anxious to see how this plays out. And very frankly, I think that there's an expectation that the spillways will be competent to handle the problem maximum flood, and that the physical structures at the dam are competent to handle the standard project flood, at least even the old one. I don't know if you're planning on a new one. So those are the kinds of questions that are pretty important questions for the department to have good answers for.
These are all great questions and everything, and as I look at the ad hoc, and as we're developing these meetings, we're trying to bring, there's a tremendous amount of experience within the ad hoc group and expertise and stuff, and we're trying to build, as we go through the process, the knowledge base of the ad hoc. And I think there's some patience that's needed so that we bring the group together of the understanding of all these different technical issues, such that as we go through this process, we all land at the same spot at the end. So I ask with the ad hoc that there's some patience, because we're trying to bring very technical things with some experts that and talk about these things and bring the group along such that we all have the knowledge base, that we're all comfortable with all these questions that were being asked. And so some of the questions are a little early, but we need to build the base there and bring everyone along. And I think that's real important for all of us.
Yeah, we call that walking the journey together with the department. And I think that was our hope when we started this, and I still have that hope and expectation. But you're right, we are, you can see that we have got a lot of questions yet. Yeah, thanks.
And it has been a long time since we had a meeting, so we need to
Right.
compact this a little bit now. We're obviously supposed to be adjourning now, and we're not even probably halfway through what we want to deal with today, so.
Are there other questions from maybe what we should do is just, is there other questions from the ad hoc right now?
There's too many. Well, one thing that might help is a greater utilization of the, not only the after meeting questions that the ad hoc asked. But if you don't completely understand the essence of the questions in our inability to word it correctly, a simple phone call, let me follow up before I respond to you, is this what you mean? Because question one last week was responded with 21 paragraphs. With source of funding established, please explain the risk assessment criteria for establishing priorities and timelines for the recommended outcome of both the level 2 and the part 12 in the CNN process. And then how does this framework weigh public safety to water delivery? And we got 21 responses that basically, or 21 paragraphs of response that basically boiled down to the process implements recommendations that will be made by the Part 10 independent council are expected to remain essentially the same as they are in past years for Oroville in DWR regulated by FERC. It's basically saying business is normal, that it's more of, what was it, direct budgetary fiscal guidelines that it's going to be run through versus bond or indirect. We didn't get to the essence of how we're going to expedite all these new measures that need to be implemented in the questions that we asked. So the other thing, then when we talked about asking for the PMF, you know, all we got was that it's redacted, but you didn't give us what information that you could share. But there was enough change in it that FERC asked for clarification of the analysis on it, that independent review board asked to rethink how that's going to affect the gates, and yet we're still kept in the dark after asking a question on the end of this. We asked for guidelines on how water control manuals is affecting so that the public, you know, can see that they're following it. And all we get is, well, the river gauge at Meridian said this, you know. So not only do we need to clean up our written comments afterwards, but maybe what we need to do is look at the agending going into the meeting and find out what we want to put into the agenda and how much time we think that we need for public comments.
I want to speak to that because I do deal with John on the agendas and timing things out, and it is a challenge because we don't know what topics are going to generate the most conversation. So building a timeline for a 2.5-hour meeting with a little understanding of what subjects we're going to get hot on questions on and what we're going to kind of pass through on is difficult. Perhaps a better model would be is that we build a presentation model, but also an hour of time within our parameter meetings just for Q&A, and that can be so that we get through the presentations, but we save enough time for for question and answers. Because what right now we're doing is we're doing the segments, right, and then we're having questions. Like we are now delaying the next segment, and so that we get backed up. Perhaps a better model moving forward for future meetings is to do all the presentations up front, or we do question and answer first, and then they do the presentations. But I think that's going to be the only way we can manage this and not have a 5-hour meeting.
I think the trouble is there's a lot of information, okay? And if we just had you guys do presentations all like, you know, there's questions that come up as you're talking, you know? And if we wait till the end, like there's, you know, 4 huge issues here that are going on. And, you know, that's why I think having some engagement as we're giving the presentations is kind of necessary, you know? You can't really have a discussion without doing that. Now, Matt's brought up a lot of different points there. I think that's why we also have this process of being able to ask questions and get responses from you after the fact too. And I think part of the frustration is maybe not getting a lot of details. Part of that is we're in a process. We're not really at the findings yet, right? But it does seem like there is detail going into the process that people want to know, right? if you are using a different PMF, if somebody is using a different number for PMF than what we're accustomed to, we want to know what is that and why, right? And those things like that, right?
Yeah, I think those are good comments, Assemblyman. We've structured this in a way that we're presenting kind of incrementally as we're working through the CNA process. And up to this point, it's been focused on setting up the program, and now we're getting into the risk part of the process. I think our future meetings are going to get into answer a little more of the questions that the group has in terms of measures. But I think there's some other topics like the PMF, water control manual, that are of interest to the group but aren't as specific to where we're at in the CNA right now. So that's maybe the other item we'll need to work on for the next meeting is how do we cover CNA plus some of these other areas of interest.
Right. Yeah.
So, Matt, I think you brought up a good point about responses and kind of the understanding or the communication of those responses. And as we go through the process,
You'll give me a briefing after.
if we don't understand the responses or some things aren't responded, then the question list kind of grows and grows and grows, and the content grows and grows. So I'd be very interested and willing if we want to form like a little subcommittee, or if we were open to it, after the initial kind of question exchange, just cycling back and say, did I understand your response? No, I didn't. I needed some more, right? We can kind of do that offline so that when we do have the formal quote unquote response to the question, or maybe you don't understand the question that we're asking, but it seems like there's an opportunity for kind of a sidebar to work through that question set. And that, I think, will help reduce some of the interaction that we're having here, so that when we get to the meeting, we can move forward as opposed to forward and backwards and forwards and backwards, and kind of, so as we progress in time, our question space gets bigger, right? So let's keep it as an advancing front.
It's a good idea, because we definitely live in different bubbles. Career engineers versus downstream residents and businessmen trying to make a living downstream without risk to their assets. It's a different world, and sometimes clarification needs to be made before we invest 21 paragraphs in a response that missed the target.
Yeah, I think we also have just different, framework in our what words mean and the way we communicate, just because of our backgrounds are maybe different.
But let's leverage that as an opportunity to work on effective communication. So we need to effectively communicate to you, you need to effectively communicate to us. And it seems like one experiment we could try would be have a little working group that would help foster that dialogue.
Yeah, so that's an area we can explore.
Sure.
Improve that.
And I'm willing to raise my hand and help, right? So.
Right. Okay, well, I agree. I think we should try to do that so we have a more focused, discussion in our meetings. We will reschedule a meeting, sometime here in the next, I'm thinking like month and a half, to focus in on these other topics. I think we're scheduled for another meeting in November.
November 8th.
So maybe we can do something in the interim.
Is that the last meeting? That's the last tab I have in my binder.
That is not the last meeting.
Right.
It's just the.
For mid-September.
Okay.
Did we want to cover the piezometer topic still, or wrap up?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have time to do that, unfortunately, but I think, we'll make that as part of our interim meeting that we'll get together, okay?
Sounds good, Assembly.
And I'll work with Ted to schedule that, and John. Okay?
And I just want to bring up one thing with respect to scheduling. The next meeting is scheduled for Friday, November 8th. That will be the anniversary of the campfire. And I think that the assemblyman and the senator, and as well as the congressman, might have other responsibilities that day. So it might need to be rescheduled.
That's a good,
Good catch. Yeah, so we'll work together to get
just
the next one and reschedule that one then.
If you have it on that day, I won't be here.
All right, well, hey, thank you all. I think it's been a lot of good discussion. Obviously, a lot of work to do, a lot of work that's being done, but a lot of work that's and I just appreciate the candid dialogue back and forth, and we'll keep working through some of these different issues and work on our meetings going forward in the future, so, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to thank everybody for their hard work and loss of sleep over the last couple of years. We can't repay you enough in what you've done. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we would definitely all agree with that. Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ted's
thank
been
you all.
working-
Appreciate
Ted's
it.
been a man on fire on this reconstruction project, so, yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.